Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Taurus, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of November. I hope you are well. I'm using, rather surprisingly, the Gilded Tarot for you today. I asked which deck wanted to be used and not one deck on the table jumped out, so I had to go to my cupboard and it was the Gilded Tarot. So it might have some significance for some of you, perhaps. But let's have a look and see what's going on with you. I have 3 cards for Taurus, please. There's the first. We have the Knight of Swords in your recent past. Current energy for Taurus, please. Boy. We have the 8 of Pentacles and whatever this is, the Lovers. It's a nice combination for you, Taurus. I like that. What's coming towards Taurus, please? For November. Coming towards Taurus. We have 2 cards again. We have Judgment and the World, interestingly enough. That feels kind of big. 9 of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Let's see if one of these decks will deign to be yes. I'm going to go with the Straightweight Smith for the clarifiers. Intriguing. Let's give it another proper shuffle so we know we're all good. Right, why is the Knight of Swords here, please, for Taurus? God, those kind of belched out. We have the 2 of Wands and the 10 of Pentacles. We've got the 8 of Pentacles and the Lovers card, please. We have the Temperance card. Sagittarius, and we've got the Page of, get it up in my fingers, Page of Wands, and one more. Oh, I said one more. How are all right? Well, where's it gone? Grab it. We have got the 8 of Swords and the Lovers again coming out under there. And what about Judgment and the World? Thank you. King of Wands. And the World. 6 of Cups in reverse. And one last card for Taurus, please. Thank you. 10 of Wands. I like the way that this is going. We've got the 2 of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck here, followed by the Hanged Man. And they're really speaking to the theme that is coming out here, which is that things are about to change dramatically, Taurus. Now, they're not going to change because, you know, the universe is benevolent and has decided that you've had enough of hard work and now it's time for you to live a life of leisure. As much as we would like to think that that's how it works, it isn't. And honestly, I think, Taurus, you'd be lost without something to work on, something to work towards. And what we're seeing here is it's almost like a redoubling of efforts. In so much as in the last couple of months, I feel like a lot of you have done a considerable amount of work in turning everything around for yourselves, right? Like you spent, you know, some part of this year in a bit of a funk for one reason or another. Things just seem to have been difficult for the sake of being difficult at points this year, and there have been like little lights in the dark that have popped up here and there. But the thing that seems to me that you have really worked out is that you need to be your own best friend. You need to be your biggest cheerleader, and you need to have faith in yourself, because where that faith is lacking, or where you're looking to somebody else to put their faith in you and then show you that you are, you know, valid and important and all that sort of thing, that's where you end up getting stuck. Whereas if the motivation is coming from within, if the drive is coming from within, if you are out there not just planning but really working hard on achieving the things that you want to achieve, in whatever sense you want to achieve them, because it could be to do with work and career, and I'm certainly seeing that highlighted a lot for some of you, but it could be with, you know, relationships, getting out there and meeting people and stuff like that. The way that this is looking, it feels like it's much more to do with in the first instance career and work and the things that you do to earn money. But beyond that, a sense of purpose that is coming with it, right? Earth signs, I think you need a material purpose, but it quite often translates into a spiritual motivation that's getting it done, you know? So we have this Knight of Swords here, this Gemini energy, and there's a lot of Gemini energy actually here on the board that is showing itself. And I think that this is the result of conversations that you've had. I think you've had a number of conversations, and we're probably going back to July, thank you, around about July time onwards. You've had a succession of conversations with people that have come about quite naturally, quite holistically. You haven't sat down people and said, right, I need you to help me sort out my life or anything like that. It's just sort of come along. You've had the right conversations with the right people at the right time. And where you were slightly lost before, and where that had an effect on how you felt about yourself in the present, you now no longer seem to be lost to me. You seem to know exactly where you are, which I think is very important. If we are if we are to go with this theme that seems to have come out over the Taurus readings over the last few months, which is that you are going somewhere without a map, and therefore you need to be present in order to, you know, mark up all the landmarks that appear on this map so that you can create one for yourself. You know, it's a reference point. You seem to know exactly where you are, and it's getting to the point now where there's a sense of where you might be going. We've got that Two of Wands there and the Ten of Pentacles. But the important thing is the understanding that it is down to you to dictate where you go, why you go there, how much time you spend there, and, you know, whether or not you stay there or you go somewhere else, you know, in all senses. I feel this big push from you, Taurus. And it's not like necessarily anything too much has changed. It's almost like there's been a continuation of what has always been this year, but what is changing is the way that you understand it and the way that you're communicating your readiness to be a part of what comes next. It doesn't feel like there's any anxiety here at all. More an understanding that the only thing that's really been holding you back is yourself. Well, that's always true, right? We know that, and that's come up a lot for you, Taurus, recently. But this crossroads energy of the Two of Wands, you could interpret it as a sort of picking yourself up by the scruff of the neck and saying, oh, you know, why are you sitting around feeling sorry for yourself? But it doesn't feel like it's that kind of thing. It feels much more, and I really like this, it feels much more compassionate and nurturing towards yourself than you are used to experiencing being a Taurus, right? And we know that you've done a lot of work on this over the last couple of years, and so this is something that has been kind of building for a while. But understanding that there are peaks and troughs, and that it is okay that there are peaks and troughs, and what, you know, the security and the stability of the Taurus experience actually comes from in here rather than the things that are around you. It's introduced a bit of fluidity. Did we ever think that we would experience fluidity here? Possibly not. I mean, you fixed Earth, you're not known for being fluid, you're known for being stable, you're known for being secure. But the world is changing at quite the pace. And if we dig our anchor points into anything outside of us at this point, when the world is in such flux, then we run the risk of being sort of dragged off with that when that disappears. Far better that our anchor points are internal. Now, I feel like you've been having the right conversations with the right people, but let's not put this down to them as having fixed you or anything like that. Like, what they've said, you've heard. And you've heard it properly. You have taken this into yourself. You have processed it. You've worked through it. And you've come to a conclusion, or a series of small conclusions, potentially, about what this means and how you go about things, right? This Ten of Pentacles here stability, security, all of those things that we like to associate with Taurus. But almost like an understanding that these can be experienced in different ways, and some of them are more useful to you than others. But the other thing that I see here is a commitment to making the choices, to engaging with the decisions that need to be made. There's nothing reactive about your energy here at all, Taurus. Nothing. It is all completely proactive. There is planning going on here. There is an end goal of sorts, even if you don't have all of the details fleshed out. Perhaps you want to be, do we not all want to be, a little bit more materially secure in the next year or so, right? I need a little bit more money coming in. I've got to do a little bit more work to make that happen. Maybe maybe you're setting up a business or something like that, and maybe this has been tickling along for a little while, and it's like, well, actually, there's a methodical path that I need to take here in order to get more exposure for my business, and there is an indication that exposure is coming, so that is something to bear in mind. Perhaps you've been in an on-off relationship. Are we together? Are we not? For this little time, and you're like, actually, what I want here is commitment, because I think a lot of Tauruses have been a little shy about necessarily committing to other people too hard in the last year or so, since you discovered, well, last 2 years actually, since you discovered that codependence is a thing, and that sort of until you get to the point where you understand where that comes from, it can be a little bit like, well, maybe I'm just going to keep myself out of the way of other people, But as I've said before, it's very easy to think that you've fixed yourself once you take yourself out of an environment where there are other people. The test is when you are around other people and your boundaries are getting tested and you are maintaining them. You are being, the bull instead of the cow. You're not being a pushover. Oh, that reminds me, cow tipping. That was a big thing in the 90s. Woe betide anybody who tried to tip a bull, right? So, although not much might have changed in your material environment, the way that you're engaging with it, and more than that, the way that you are looking to master it, is very subtly different to every attempt that you've tried before. And honestly, I think a huge part of that is faith in yourself. I know I've said it before already, but the number of ways that you used to try and talk yourself out of things, right? And there were safe places for you where you knew exactly what you were doing, right? Comfort zone stuff, if you will, right? I know exactly where I am with that, so I'm going to hold on to that with everything that I've got. Those don't really apply anymore. This is what I'm talking about, this kind of fluidity. There's a willingness to explore, and there's a willingness to kind of get out there and go, well, I don't know how to do this thing yet, but it's a yet, not at all. And in your current energy, we've got the Eight of Pentacles and we've got the Lovers. That's a really, really powerful combination there, because, the Lovers does talk about a choice, and sometimes that can be quite a big choice. Not necessarily between the things, but the level of choice that you are making can be quite life-changing, right? So what's missing here is the fear. There's no fear of failure here. There is an Eight of Swords, but we'll get to that in a minute. There's no fear of failure here. There's no fear of being seen to be unworthy of the position that you are currently occupying, again, in whatever sense that applies, whether you're employed or self-employed, or whether this is to do with a relationship or what, right? The comfort is actually in here somewhere. It's like, no, I'm good. I'm Taurus. I'm just, trundling along, doing my thing. You're not distracted at this point. There's a point of singular focus here. And where your mind, and we'll just point out here, would be the thing that would be starting to interfere at a point. Like, why are you doing that? That's too strong. You shouldn't be doing that. Why are you drawing attention to yourself? Why are you... Why aren't you making yourself small? Why aren't you sucking your ribs in? Why aren't you, dancing along on your little tippy hooves? That voice, while still present, doesn't really get a look in anymore. And it could be because this drive and motivation that I was talking about, this methodical plodding where you're like, I am going somewhere, is so consuming that no matter how much your internal monkey with the cymbals is just like crashing away, it's almost like somebody's turned the volume down on it. It's like, I know you're there. You're never going to go anywhere, but I can turn the volume down. That's a huge thing, Taurus. That's massive. But more than that, what we've got is you being very diligent, very disciplined, and very applied to this act of getting into an energetic slipstream of you choosing what you want to do. Right, what I'm not getting here is a sense of duty and responsibility that drains the living shit out of you because you have to do a thing, right? We know Taurus is often very driven by this sense of things that they must do or things that they should do, the things that other people think that they should do. You feel very self-possessed to me at this point. And whether you know where you're going or whether you don't, and it could be an equal split. Like I said, maybe you have a sense of where you're going, but the end result is something that is currently shrouded in mystery to you. The willingness to just do it anyway is really, really strong. Well, the Lovers represents that free will. And if it's something that Taurus has really struggled with, like I said, it is the application of one's free will to a situation because everybody else's opinion was more important. Everybody else's judgment was more important than your own on something, unless it was on a very narrow fucking strip of circumstance where you knew you were an expert in that and you would not fucking step down on holding that position. With most other things in your life, there has been a lack of assertiveness. There's been a lack of a sense of self applied to it, and that is now gone. Like I said, you've turned the volume down on this. And underneath we have the Temperance card, the Page of Wands, like I said, this Eight of Swords, and then there again is the Lovers card. Well, the Temperance card is about healing and balance and moderation and all of those things. And I feel like it's speaking to a very emotionally grounded presentation that is coming from you at this time. And, there have been times in the past where, Taurus, you have been a bit flighty when it comes to emotional things. So I think that you've done enough work over the last 2 years to unpack that you know exactly where that has come from now. And like I said, it doesn't mean that it's totally gone, but it does mean that it's under control now. The mastery of whatever it is that you are working towards, right? The way that you are working at the moment, the diligence, the focus, the discipline. It's an expression of what you are holding within you at this point. You could not do what you're doing now without all of that inside of you. And the Temperance card is that balance and moderation and healed positioning that you are now in that is allowing you to make these decisions freely without any sense of guilt or any of the other things that tend to come along when Taurus are making big decisions that they feel potentially might affect other people. And the thing is, with being a Taurus, you feel like every action that you have affects somebody else. You have to take everybody else into consideration. But sometimes, Taurus, like the world can just potter along quite nicely without you while you are focusing on something that is important. And what you are working on right now does feel important. Not just to you, although that's the most important thing, but to everybody else too. We spoke, I don't remember if it was the last reading I did or the reading before. I do feel like there was something that was coming up about getting yourself okay with being seen. And also the idea of being a leader. And I physically felt lots of Tauruses shrink back away from the screen when I said that. But as I pointed out in that reading, there are lots of ways to be a leader. Not all of them involve you getting up on stage and telling everybody that they need to follow you because your idea is best. Sometimes it's much more subtle than that. It's much more discreet. It's about leading by example. And that, Taurus, is something that you do extremely well. So although you may feel like you've kind of pulled away a little bit from people at this point while you're focusing on what it is that you're doing, the reality of the situation is actually that that level of detachment is really just right. It's the Goldilocks spot for you right now, because you can be seen by other people, but not to the degree that their observation of your work is distracting, but just close enough that they can be inspired by what it is that you're doing, right? Because you are turning your life around. You're doing it in a Taurus way, and that's the only way that you should be doing it ever, is in your way. But don't underestimate the knock-on effect for everybody else. I mean, I feel like this Page of Wands here, yes, it talks about a spark of creativity, and we can absolutely see how that would apply to you, but I actually think that this is the ripple effect from what you're doing. It's having an effect on other people. Maybe it's causing them to look at the way that they manage their time a little bit and go, well, actually, do you know what, I could do a lot more. Like, look at what Taurus is pulling up. A Taurus has always been a high achiever when it comes to productivity, right? But there've been times over this last year where you felt like you've lost touch with that. Well, it's very much back and it's very much present. You know, if these are people that know you a little better, then it could be, well, I know that Taurus is fucking terrified of doing all these sorts of things, but look at it, they're just doing it, you know? It feels like it's the inspiration of others. Pretty. We've got the Eight of Wands there. We've got a card that fell out to the side. We've got the Nine of Cups. A lot of this would be to do with the way that you are structuring not only your time, but your relationships too. You know, the people around you have noticed that you feel just a little bit more settled in yourself, right? You are wearing your skin a little bit more easily than you have done before. And it's a really difficult thing. And I've experienced it myself. I know exactly what it's like to feel like you don't really fit in your skin properly. Like something is wrong here. To be entirely at odds with the life that you have and the things that you're trying to do internally, just feeling like you're not suited, you're not really supposed to be here in the way that you are, right? I feel like if you ever spent any amount of time in a state of absolute fucking confusion as to what is going on in the world, or with your friends, or with your family, or with yourself, you're just like, what? I feel like those moments, those are where you feel like you should be able to change shape and turn into something else that is much more fitting. The thing is, that kind of energy does... You do give that off when you feel that, and I feel that some people find that kind of abrasive. Some people kind of pull away from that. They're like, oh, they're not very comfortable in their own skin, right? And that kind of rubs off on other people. By extension, then, what happens is people go, oh god, they're fucking neurotic, or they're so anxious, and so they make me feel that way, right? You're like a rock at this point, Taurus. There's so much stability here, and it's true stability. It's not that you own your own house and you've got your own, you know, I don't know, that you own all of your appliances and stuff like that. You know, nothing on tick, everything's owned outright, and that makes you feel very good and all that sort of stuff, which is kind of like traditional ways of looking in the Taurian experience as to whether everything is okay. I own my car, I own my house, I own all of my stuff, I've got a nice steady job that pays me a decent income. But you might still have been a bit of an anxious internal mess. Now, things around you might be a little bit more fluid, materially. But you're kind of sitting in the centre, being frankly zen as fuck, relatively speaking. Now, with all of the shit that is going on in the world at the moment, that is no small feat. And it's really important for me to make sure that you know that I fucking see you. I see what you're doing, and I fucking love it. It's really, really good, because it is affecting other people. Just when, just as the other stuff affects people, the good stuff affects people too. This is how you lead, by example. And we've got that 8 of Wands, and we've got the 9 of Cups, and I think that's an extraordinary combination there in terms of how you are affecting other people, right? We've got an increase in momentum. The more that you are doing this, the more it is coming naturally to you, right? You're starting to look at other people and going, well, cool, right? They seem a little bit neurotic. I never saw that before, but they are, They make me feel a little bit like, ugh, when they come around. But the difference is that I don't feel like that anymore, Because you are putting front and centre what is important to you and you alone. You're starting to inspire others to do the same. Like I said, we've got that 8 of Swords there. Let's not think for a second that that's completely disappeared, because I think everybody has their anxieties. Everybody has the ways in which they are, stuck mentally. But it is a willingness to sit with it with you. Right? I'm going to turn the volume down and I'll go, well, come and hear what you've got to say. But when I'm done, I'm going to go back over there. I'm not going to sit with you, and we're not going to sit and have a little trauma bond, you, me and the 8 of Swords here. I'll hear you, but then I will decide whether what you have to say is useful to me at this point. And if it's not, I'm going to walk away. So we've got this double Lovers card. Showing up twice. But it's truly a state of self-awareness to be able to hold that with the volume turned down and still be getting yourself into this energy here, still being willing to make the decisions, still being willing to live a state of harmonious kind of union with that side of yourself. It's huge, Taurus. I know, it's another one of those A-star, top of the class kind of situations that we've got going on here. 8 of Swords and the Lovers. Thank you. Yeah, you've got the 5 of Pentacles. I think that you are sick to fucking death of feeling in a 5 of Pentacles state, feeling like you're afraid or that you're poverty stricken in some way. Don't forget that that isn't necessarily to do with money, although it absolutely can be. It's about all of the other kind of poverties that there are. Emotional poverty, spiritual poverty. You're learning to be your own best friend. And the 5 of Pentacles just doesn't work for you anymore. Like I said, you might have had plenty of material things, and Tauruses always have lovely houses. I always love going to Taurus houses. But the emotional investment in those things is shifting, because you realise that it's, you've projected a lot onto stuff, and life is more than about stuff. It's more than about your financial security. Those things are still important, but there's something else that seems to be driving you now. And I do feel that a lot of this is about not losing the fear of exploring your own potential, losing the fear of exploring your own personal power, because that has terrified a lot of Tauruses for a long time. It's an odd kind of juxtaposition to have someone who is born as strong as you were, and so willing to take on responsibilities and duties and bear more than your fair share of any given load in order to keep the community harmonious. The absolute knowledge that that's a thing, and then be so afraid of one's own personal power. I feel like you're starting to see yourself as an authority on you in a way that you had not up until this point. And that's a really important change, because where you become the final authority on you and what you do and what you think and all of those sorts of things, you become far less easy to manipulate. And let's face it, Tauruses do get emotionally manipulated. It's a really easy route in on a Taurus, you know. It's falling by the wayside. You can't be touched in that way anymore. And I feel like you might be drawing more of those kind of people towards you. You might feel that the sort of people who would be likely to emotionally manipulate you are now kind of, they're a little thinner on the ground than they used to be. And that's not just because they've run out. The world is full of those. No, instead, it is just that they see you and they see that there's no route in. They don't even get close anymore. Knight of Wands. Sagittarius energy, but it's, you know, and it's associated with fun and freedom and you know, fucking fluidity and all the things that we're talking about there, but it's absolutely about being present. Now you are present fully. There's really not much that's getting past you. I feel like you're really kind of starting to enjoy being you, Taurus. And I like that for you. I really like that for you. So, God, I've been bumbling on for ages, I'm sorry. Let us get to November and the Judgment card and the World. I said I felt like things were going to be changing quite dramatically for you in November, and you know, this is why. There's Uranus in Taurus, I feel, has probably been poking you quite a bit for a while now anyway, but this feels like it could well indicate something similar along those lines. So right, we have the Judgment card, we have the World card, and underneath, clarifying, we have the King of Wands, the Six of Cups in reverse, which is amazing, and we also have the Ten of Wands too. Now, what I'm not quite sure about at this point is whether the Six of Cups in reverse and the Ten of Wands are together, or whether they are kind of separated. I mean, the whole three cards are together, obviously. Fool. Okay, thank you. That makes things much clearer. So, you have on the table the two cards in the major arcana that speak to big decision making. That is the Lover's card and it is the Judgment card. Both of these cards have the possibility of you making life-changing decisions, right? The Lover's card is almost like getting into the mindset of being able to step up and make these decisions. Like I said, often it doesn't really matter what you're choosing between, just the willingness to engage with it, right? Not hiding away from anything, not avoiding anything, not swerving anything. Certainly not avoiding or swerving yourself from whatever's going on there. But the Judgment card is that point of absolute judgment, like where you make a decision on something. The fact that it's here with the World is an ending, right? And actually these two cards run on from each other, right? So the Judgment card is 20 and then the World card is 21. And that is the end of the major arcana. That is the end of a cycle. And you've got a decision that is taking you very neatly to the end of a particular cycle. From there, you would go to the card that came out, which was the Fool. There's a process going on here. But this World card feels, actually, interestingly, a little bit like recognition for something. Rather than it speaking specifically and only to the end of something, although it, you know, absolutely is doing that as well, it's got this added extra bit of you being seen, in whatever sense that applies. It is recognition. And we've got the King of Wands underneath here. It's the Leo card. The Judgment card for me kind of feels like Scorpio, to be honest. I don't know if it has a strict astrological correspondence, but for me it's Scorpio. And then the World card is all of the fixed signs. So it's Leo, Taurus, actually, obviously, Scorpio and Aquarius. It's that sense of things coming full circle. back to their foundations, but you being elevated as a result. Now, the King of Wands, like I said, is Leo, but it's about the actions that you take. It is the things that you do, and it feels like it's the judgments that you make. It is the decisions that you are making in November. But with the King of Wands, with that added element of being seen to do this. Now, I wonder if this relates to this sense of you leading by example. Because if any leads by example, it would be the King of Wands, right? We've got the visibility of fire. We've got, you know, the visibility of that whole element and everything that it represents. But we've got distinct action being taken on something. Now, the Six of Cups is very interesting to me because it's turned up in the reverse. It sits very nicely with the cards that are already out because it's an absolute refusal to go back to an old situation. The Six of Cups is the past. It can be, you know, your sort of mid-term past. It can be your long-term past, going back to childhood. Or it can be past life stuff. And I wonder if part of the graduation here, in a spiritual sense, is you not only having learned a really, really strong lesson, but you actually also having cleared some karma from a past life. We can totally see that being an issue here too. To wit, then, I like the fact that the Ten of Wands is here. Like, it is a card of burden. It is a card of things being really, really hard, but it is an end, just like the world is an end. It is things coming to completion. So where things have been really hard and what you have been finding really hard, kind of getting to this point where suddenly it breaks. It's not hard anymore. From the Ten of Wands, you go back to the Ace of Wands and you start that whole suit again. You've got lots and lots of things wrapping up for you this month, Taurus. But the important thing to realise is that every single one of these things is as a direct response to the work that you have done, what you are applying yourself to, the way you've turned the volume down on the symbol monkey and everything, you know. In terms of personal responsibility, which is what you know I'm completely all about, right? Autonomy, true autonomy, becoming your own moral authority, becoming your own authority on everything. Like, you seem to be escalating everything in November. Maybe it's just all the things coming together and coalescing for you in November as a result of what you have already done. But to go from the Judgment card to the World card, and then to the Fool. I mean, we'll get into this more in the Vimeo, but you're being released from something. I don't think it's your own mind, because I think you've been working on that methodically for some time now, and you've got that down. There's some sort of release coming from something else, and there's an elevation coming in some way too, and I do feel like it's to do with your profile. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean all of you can become as famous as the Kardashians overnight. Like, that's not the sort of thing that I'm talking about here. But there is a raising of your profile, whether it is within a small group of people, you know, and that could be something to do with your, you know, the grounded and practical way that you are going about things, right? But also this sense of autonomy in the way that you're looking after yourself now. That is kind of bringing you to the attention of other people. And you're like, oh, God, have you seen the change in Taurus? You know, they're doing pretty cool things at the moment. You know, they're really grounded, they're really stable, they're really working on their own happiness. That's cool. Maybe I could do something like that. Or maybe it's within the workplace. Maybe if you run your own business, it's something to do with, you know, just catching a little bit of a break, something that gets you a little bit more exposure that would lead then to, you know, you being able to do more of the thing that you enjoy. But there's a huge cycle wrapping up here, and there's an elevation, and then we're at the Fool. It's almost like the universe is picking you up right at the end and just going, right, there you go. You don't have to scrabble. I'm just going to pop you up there. And it's not hard, is the point. That's an interesting couple of cards that we've got there. We've got the Moon in reverse, and you've got the Hanged Man. The Moon in reverse means the things that are hidden come to light. It could well be things that currently are hidden from you in terms of the ways in which the universe could be giving you a leg up are not yet, not yet obvious to you, but will become more obvious in the month of November. This Hanged Man means both a change of perspective that comes from you, and I think that that's important, but it's also about submission. It's really important as these things start to happen for you in November, Taurus, that you maintain the route that you are taking. You maintain your personal course. Because I think there would be an opportunity for you to default back to Eight of Swords kind of things. You could default back to a second guessing of stuff. And actually what you're being asked to submit to is the fact that you're not that person anymore. Your view of yourself has changed. Everybody else's view of you has changed. And you are now different. And if you try to go back to behaving the way that you did before, if you allow the volume on that thing to be turned up, you will miss opportunities, because this Fool card represents absolute potential. What you choose to do with that is entirely your business, and where you've been going up until this point is getting yourself to a point where you realise that it is always your business, right? This personal autonomy, this personal sovereignty, this being your own authority on everything, these lessons that you've learned right up until this point are what you need in order to propel yourself forwards during the month of November, as things start to make themselves known to you, as things start to become revealed. Had you not done that, then as these opportunities arrive, as the potential arises at you, you possibly would have kicked back against it and retreated, and that's not the path for you. Like I said, you need to get comfortable with being seen, because you are. And people are looking to you for inspiration. This is really interesting, Taurus. I'm going to go over to Vimeo now. If you'd like to join me over there, you're very, very welcome. The link is in the description box. You could go and join my circle community, but we're having some massive teething problems. Some people are managing to get in and some people are not, because of looping login streams and stuff like that. I am on with it. I'm trying to sort it out. But if neither of those apply to you, that's absolutely fine. I just want for you to have ringing in your ears as things start to elevate, as things start to lift, as opportunities start to present to you, that you have worked for this, you have created this for yourself, and you must accept them graciously as they come in. Don't try and fight back against it. Don't fall into old patterns of thinking where, maybe imposter syndrome's kicking in or something like that, right? Just meet them as they come to you. Meet the challenges as they come to you, meet the opportunities as they come to you, and employ a level of grace with both, with the way you approach them. Because I think November could be quite exciting, but it does have the potential to be quite life-changing if you allow it. And it's always down to you, Taurus. Right, I'm going to go. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.